Warm welcome. Good morning to all of you. Lovely to read where you're all from, France and Belgium and Scandinavia. Lovely to have you here with us. My name is Ulla Koenig. I'm a mindfulness and Dharma teacher from southern Germany, and I send you a very warm welcome to join us this morning. So, we're going to talk about craving and clinging and contraction and all of that in a minute. I'm going to have a few further exploration into that. But first of all, let me point you to the chat box where you can share with each other where you're from and how the weather is, but also share any technical issues you might run into. And also, if you can't hear me well, if the sound is off, if there is something happening, just let us know in the chat box and we might be able to help you out. And the other thing I really want to encourage you to do is to share your experience. Maybe you practiced a little bit with a theme from yesterday, noticed something. It doesn't have to be pretty. Yeah, we're not here to share pretty. Definitely not. We're here to share from humans towards humans. And maybe you found something which is quite interesting, but let's say not pretty. And that is very much welcome to share. I have a lot of unprettiness to share with you, and I will, so that you notice that's okay. So any questions, resistances, experiences, insights coming up, please put them into the chat box. I'll pick them up and weave them into the teaching as much as I can. Good. What else? Recordings will be available afterwards, so this might feel like a shower of words at times. We have very little time together, so I'll try to go on a wobbly balance between teaching some concepts and then practicing it for 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the guided meditation afterwards. Fortunately enough, we can hear those recordings later on Sangha Live. And if you are able to support this platform, Sangha Live, and the teachers teaching upon it with whatever is appropriate and available to you, please feel free to go to the donation link at the end of the session and just share a little so that we can continue this journey together. Very much appreciated. Okay, now, yesterday we started to talk about clinging and craving and that fire which can be produced at times. And I just want to emphasize again, it can be fire in all directions. The Buddha named 3 types of craving and clinging. One, of course, is that which most obvious might come to our minds, sensual experience. Mind wants some experience. Yeah, we had the example of the red jacket yesterday when I went shopping. I want that red jacket. I want that food. I want that comfortable moment on the sofa with a glass of wine, and the mind goes into, wow, that is nice, and it's absolutely appropriate to have at times. The mind goes into a contraction around that image to say, oh, not only would this be nice, but actually I'll contract and I'll harden around it, and the story now goes, I need this. I need this to be happy. I need this to be okay. I need this to keep going, whatever it is. And you notice it's a hardening, a contraction. And that is sensual experience, but that is not the only thing our heart minds contract and crystallize and are pushed and pulled towards. There is a lot about identity as well. Yeah, I need to be that person. I need to be that way. I need to have that achievement, that character trait, that knowledge, that relationship, relational need met. Yeah, I need to, part identity here, part need, in order to be okay, in order to feel okay about myself. And that goes into, that is bhava. Yeah, I need to become a certain way, and vibhava would be the opposite. I need to get rid of that aspect of that which defines me, of that which tells me who I am, because I don't want to be that person. Yeah, a lot of the inner critic is exactly around that. Yeah, vibhava, the unbecoming. So all three fields, you will notice this form of identity forming, and then something tells us within to say, oh, this is the way to happiness. This is the only way to happiness. And we kind of collapse into that idea. So if we hear these noble truths, and especially this third noble truth, is there, when we hear the Buddha saying freedom from suffering, we kind of assume sometimes that we can be free from all challenges. Yeah, Buddhism or Buddhist practice or mindfulness practice is about being free from all challenges. And I find it necessary to wake up people from time to time and say, no, unfortunately, that is not what it's about, because it's not possible. Yeah, life will stay challenging. Life will stay challenging. Dukkha, this friction, this challenge with experience, that is just inherent to our receptive, porous, touchable, sensitive nature. Yeah, life will continue to touch us in the pleasant, fortunately enough, and in the unpleasant, and a lot of neutral in between. But what can change, and maybe this is what he means with freedom from, yeah, is that the tendency of our heart minds to contract and to cling, to be pushed and pulled because of that underlying dukkha. Yeah, in response or in more in reaction to that underlying dukkha, that can change. Yeah, how I meet the dukkha and what arises as a reaction to the dukkha. Yeah, less and less an unpleasant experience, a challenging experience, needs to bring up an immense urge to compensate, an immense urge to become someone who doesn't experience such things, etc., etc. So maybe there is the true change which can develop over practice. But sometimes we need to soothe our heart minds and say, well, beloved dreaming aspect of mine, it's not about making life unchallenging. Yeah. It's more about finding a middle way between two extremes, where the one is to just blindly give in to those impulses and pushes and hungers and thirsts, and kind of handing them over the steering wheel and say, okay, I allow you to drive the car. Yeah, I'm just like blindly sitting on the back seat and hoping that you don't drive it into some tree. Yeah, hopefully nothing will happen, but this push, this pull, this is so unpleasant and so immediate. I can't handle that. Yeah, and we just say, okay, I give up the responsibility. May the mind be driven. Yeah, and we notice how often that happens and how painful that can be. And on the other side, we might have the opposite idea. Okay, now I'm practicing Buddhism. Now this is about making the clinging stop. Yeah, I have to stop these urges. I have to stop these hungers and pushes and pulls. I should not even experience them. Yeah, I should not even experience them. And this would be the equally painful opposite view. Yeah, it's not okay. It's not appropriate. It's not right to experience these urges, these hungers, these pulls. And then we pendulate, and we give a lot of power and time and attention to these urges and pulls, in expectation that if we do so, they go. Yeah, and then all of a sudden we get all tired and brittle, and we just say, okay, I've had it. Yeah, I can't stop this flood, so I'm just leaning back and let things happen. And then we start these pendulating movements between those two extremes. For today, I would like to suggest a different working assumption in our practice. Yeah, what if we assume that there will be some craving, clinging, contraction, tension going on for still some time? Yeah, for still some time. Let's not let's not say for always. We're not sure about that. They might get less. Yeah, they might get less intense, or they might stay equally intense and we might be more able to handle them, which might then feel like less intention. But let's say they're here to stay for a while. And with that, I mean everything the heart mind wants and leans towards and craves, but also everything around our identity. What if we assume that these impulses of critique and comparison and harshness and pressure to be a certain way, or pressure on others to have a certain relationship, what if these pressures and impulses are here to stay for a while? And what if they do not mean defeat, but we can just say, oh, this is the heart mind's old ways of relating to dukkha, building up some hunger, building up some pressure, building up some impulse to do and to make and to change and to become. Yeah? And not to see it as this is who I am, and this is a character trait of mine, this clinging, this craving, which is like really not pretty to have. To say, oh, these are old minds of the heart, old ways of the heart mind to relate. And then slowly but surely make ourselves on a path to discover new ways to relate to these urges and pulls, to these pushes and hungers, to these self-views and who we should become and what we need to get rid of, etc., etc. And for me, the first and most important point is to actually see craving, clinging, push, pull, hunger for what it is. That is, to me, one of the hardest things, because craving is such a master of disguise. It's such a master storyteller. Yeah. Every craving comes around, every push and every pull comes around with a very convincing story, an incredibly convincing narrative. Yeah. I'm really not the person I should be. I'm really not okay the way I am. How could you ever doubt that I'm an okay person? Yeah, and you will hear the mind saying that. Say this is all nice about compassion and kindness and friendliness, and I can do this once I got rid of that aspect. Once I'm that different person, then I'll be fine. Yeah, and to see the convincingness of the story. And sometimes it's in these Dharma teachings and in conversations with others that we see through these stories for a moment. And to say, oh, it's neither black or white. It's not necessarily so black and white most of the time as craving tells me. It's not I'm either the person I should be or not the person I should be, but there are beautiful and there are harmful currents running through us. And can I take care? Can I just really take care of that being and learn how to co-gestalt, act, be with, change, have an impact on these currents, not creating personhood out of it. For example, a much more subtle, much less obvious, much less dense narrative. So craving, we can, in the story quality, we can catch it for a lot of black and white, either or. And the story itself, it will have some immense oomph, some pressure, some absoluteness in it. I really need to have this experience. My happiness depends upon this experience. Or there is only one way to meet this need. We have a beautiful need, let's say connection or stillness, silence, whatever it is. And the mind contracts into only one strategy, one way to solve, one way to nourish. And it says, this red jacket will bring me all the satisfaction. It will bring beauty to my life. And this is the only way. We need to buy this €120 jacket. To say, oh, really? Yes, we do. There is no other way. The mind goes on storytelling. Have an ear open. Have an ear open for this either or and this absoluteness in these stories. But I find for myself, if I go too close to the storytelling and start to negotiate with it and talk to it and try to find my way through it, I get entangled. It's just like going on the merry-go-round with it. I much rather like to rely on strong physical sensations, on my soma, to tell me whether this is craving or not. And interestingly enough, craving comes along with usually a sense of high and pleasantness. Yeah. It's almost as if the body, heart, and mind, they can't stay in this moment. They are pushed, they are pulled, they are hungry, they have to, they need to go. If you are within a wave of shame, yeah, within a wave of inner critic, within a wave of you need to get a certain aspect of yourself embellished, just notice how it would feel to sit on the cushion on your chair, just do nothing in that moment. Oh, yeah, it's really unpleasant. And that is a beautiful indicator for craving to be there. Yeah, sometimes when I have a need, like for example, I've been hiking for a long time and hunger comes up. Beautiful need, body needs nourishment, absolutely okay. But I know there is not this urgency behind it. There is not this urgency behind it. The urgency comes when the mind goes into the story of, we might not get enough. What if on the next place we stay there is not enough food or not the right type of food? We might go hungry. We might go underfed. Alarm, we need to walk faster. Yeah, we need to walk fast because maybe all the others are eating away the food. Yeah, and you see how it's a slippery path. How from the open need of I'm hungry and I need to be fed. Yeah, the mind collapses into a storytelling urgency, pushed and pulled format. Yeah, and sometimes it's very lovely to just disentangle that back to the open need and say, oh, dear body, I'm noticing you need something to eat. We'll take care of that. Don't go. You don't have to be afraid. We'll find something to eat and we will be okay again. Yeah, that is the leaning back into the need almost. But I find also, in order for us to be able to do that, we need to be aware of the costs of craving and clinging and hungry and drivenness and push and pull. I hear a lot of the time people justifying their cravings, yeah, to say, well, if I would not have put so much obsession, energy, time into this action, if I would not have gone over my limits so consistently, I wouldn't have achieved this. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. Yeah, this sounds to me still like the storytelling of the craving mind. Yeah, to say, well, maybe without the craving, you would have been able to go into smaller, more consistent, more, what's the word? Yeah, it doesn't come. More consistent, persistent steps, and you would have gone there anyways. But the craving would not have been the big motivation. Maybe some sense of care, maybe some sense of healthy desire with pauses in between, with the ability to allow not getting what we wanted as an option so that we would have had more peacefulness, etc., etc. To be aware of the costs of craving and clinging is something the craving mind does not want. Just take an addiction of any sorts. Yeah. The hardest thing is to really stand still and have an open and honest exploration about the costs. Yeah. Sometimes, like with the inner critic, it's more obvious. Yeah. More obvious on the one side to say, well, I know how painful an inner critic can be, but something within us keeps it going because we are afraid of the costs of letting it go. Yeah. What would I miss if I would not have this critical, guiding, aware voice? Would I get slack? Would I get lazy? Yeah. Wouldn't I be able to get anything done? Yeah. These are the costs we imagine to be there. So there needs to be an open and honest exploration into the costs. What benefits do you think the craving brings you? Yeah. And what costs can you see? And do you really want to put an end to it? And if not, fine. But why don't you want to put an end to it? Yeah. What is it bringing to your life? And is there some belief in the heart mind that the happiness of some sort depends upon it? Good. So, and then we do that in the meditation in a moment together. We nourish something else. I believe the first thing to nourish when we meet those cravings, those urges, those pushes and pulls, is to really create a reference space. What do I mean by that? If we are aware of craving and clinging, what happens is this zooming in, this very narrow focused mind on something. Let's just take the difference between a need and a craving again. A need, like the hunger on the hiking journey I had earlier, it's open and it can be fed in many ways. It can be fed in that hut we might be going to, or I might even turn around and walk home because that might be the most appropriate thing. I might have that apple in the bag, which is not fancy and super nourishing, but it would keep me going for a while, etc., etc. So need has a broad openness of possibilities to be met. And the clinging and the craving, it goes into that person under these circumstances at that time of the day can give me what I need and no other options. I don't allow any other options even to pop up in the mind. So you see, the reference space is quite different. And if the clinging is strong, we almost have no space around, no place to meet it from. We're immersed in it, we're deeply in it, and we have almost like nothing else which could remind us of an alternative narrative, of an alternative perspective to see that. And mindfulness training now is a lot about giving, about finding, first of all, and then helping us to return and return again to these safe havens, these anchoring points, these refuges for awareness. And that is best to be practiced in, let's say, craving, in little craving moments, in moments where there's little craving going on, to really explore what is your safe haven. Is it the breath? Or is it awareness of the body? Is it metta or mudita? Is it movement? Is it mantra? I really do not care, as long as you have a safe haven for you to return to open up that, almost like a ship has an anchor, and throws that out and say, okay, no matter what goes on in the heart mind and how strong these impulses become, I have something I can remember, to say, there is this strong current of craving, and I can feel my breath as well. I can feel my feet on the floor. I can remember some moment of metta. I can move and a little and feel the body again. I have this mantra in the back of my mind, and many, many more. So the mere knowledge of I can be aware of this too, creates some beautiful, most important reference space around these pushes and pulls. So, so important. And I feel this is something I really can say we take refuge in. We take refuge in, we create a vessel around that. And I had a precious moment with my inner critic, which was a raging beast for a while. A beautiful moment where I noticed a strong wave of inner critic coming through. And around that, just that felt sense of I have at least enough space around it to be aware of that pattern of mind, of these thoughts, of that yucky bodily feeling. And I almost had this feeling of, okay, I have a choice. I can go into that and get entangled with the inner critic, or I lean back. I'll lean back into the awareness. And that was a moment of game changing for me. Good. That's enough for this morning. we're going to practice this now. We're going to create a, hopefully, a feeling of safe, safe haven, a refuge with each other. My invitation is for you to make yourself comfortable. I'm switching on electricity on my computer, else I'll get lost. Okay. Sit and stand and lie down and do whatever you feel to be able to connect or find some of those anchor points, whatever they can be for you this morning. And as I said, these voices are all recorded, and most probably only, being generous with myself this morning, a fourth of them matters anyways, so let them go. We shift intention inwardly. Allow your body. Let me make you a bit comfortable. Where can I support you? Sitting here, standing here, lying down. What do you need to be comfortable? Okay, just okay in this moment. For some of us, that would be more than enough. Just okay. And just for a moment, without doing a lot, just being aware of the maybe physical impulses, sensations within the bodily field can be quite alive, not necessarily pleasant. Maybe there are some pleasant, some neutral, and some unpleasant aspects in this moment. And we're almost listening back into the past. These are echoes to past experience, maybe the talk right now, the night of sleep, the past days. The body is a slow animal. It still echoes with these past experiences. And just see whether you feel called to try and experiment with some movement or some breathing, some touching, to help the body to settle some of that energy. Don't worry about thoughts and thinking too much at the moment. We can see how the mind echoes as well, still reverberates to everything which touched it and impressed it and which it reacted to. So the thoughts, the chatter, the problem solving facility, they may all go on. And as much as we can, we bring some attention, some love, some care to the body, saying, let me help you, dearest one. What would you like? To be breathed with one of the most nourishing breaths I can come up with this morning. Or maybe a little dance on the chair and the cushion to just gently move. Sometimes it's the gentle hand, the warmth, the gentleness of that gesture to bring a hand somewhere which the body responds to well. Just try it out for yourself. And now let us look for an anchor in all this vast sea of experience, physical experience of the body, waves of emotion, and waves of thought. What could potentially be, we don't have to get it right, but what could potentially be an anchor? Maybe there is some place within the body which gives you a sense of stability or openness, spaciousness, maybe the hands holding each other, or the sensing of the sitting bones in the spine, feet on the floor. Maybe it's within this steadiness of the breath, rolling in and out. Maybe you can come up with a sense of kindness, friendliness for either yourself or someone else. A metta memory, an appreciation, a mudita memory, something which lifts up the heart a bit. And for some of us it might be outside, opening up the eyes and looking at something small yet beautiful, pattern on the table, on the wall, color. Just choose something to play with this morning. And when you have it, can you nourish it with a little attention, as much or as little as is possible this morning? As if droplets of our attention will make it stronger, a stronger connection with this anchoring point. Not because we have to or we should be good meditators, but actually we might love some stability. We would like to have a home in our practice, something we can come back to. The winds of life blow rather strongly. And maybe to reassure the heart mind that it's okay to take refuge there. As much or as little as it is possible this morning. To say I shall entrust the attention to this experience and take a rest there. All the other obligations and roles, the becomings and the unbecomings, all the ideas which the mind has, what we still have to get and experience and be. Maybe then can shift a little to the periphery and we make space for this very simple experience. And for some of us this morning, this might not be an experience of immersion, of diving into, because something's strongly tugging on the attention, pushing, pulling the heart mind. Just recognize that to say, well, there is some movement going on. Not a problem. We haven't failed the practice. And we could use the little word and. Yes, there is this push, this pull, these thoughts this reactivity within the body, this unpleasantness of the moment. And somewhere in the very background of my attention, maybe, I still notice the anchor point. Maybe the mind gets impatient, gets restless with what is still to come in the day ahead. It's on the springboard of saying, let's go onwards, let's do something. And we notice this being pushed and being pulled into the day. And that's okay. And there is the breathing. Maybe this is a wonderful little moment to put some reference space around this being pushed and pulled, not allowing it to dictate our lives. And now very consciously, out of a spacious ability to choose, not to be pushed into action, but to choose, we end the meditation. And we end it gracefully. We start moving. We start wriggling fingers and hands. We start yawning and sighing. We wake the body up once more. Good morning, dear one. And then when you feel ready, you slowly make your progression back to the screen, come back to the community. So, I find it quite astonishing in this practice that we think meditation practice goes all right when we find silence and when we are deeply immersed in that anchor point, that refuge. How much of a practice, how much of a meditation practice is actually meeting those cravings and pushes and pulls and urges and growing a form of resilience, a form of reference space around them? Yeah. How often have you been on your cushion and something really told you there is no time to that, there is no sense to that, it's meaningless, we want to do something else, I'd better be Sufi dancing, I better read that book about Buddhism, or that sounds more appealing to me. And how much of our practice is to, learn gentle, nourishing, not harsh ways, but nourishing, kind ways, to be resilient with those pushes and pulls and urges, so that we have some freedom, some spaciousness around that. Yeah. Okay, now it's up to you to contribute and share maybe your experiences, as I said, not only the pretty ones, but maybe the challenging ones. Anything which came up for you today or yesterday. Yeah, just feel free to share. And I may start because I got an email, and you're also welcome to send me an email if you don't want to share the question in public. Someone asked me about addiction. Yeah. It's about non-smoking. I'm not going to share the whole story here, but it's about stop smoking, maybe stop even drinking. Yeah. And whether I think there is some such a thing as an addictive personality, the person asked me. To me, it seems that addiction is rarely an isolated case in families. How far can we get involved in the addiction of others? Yeah, great question. Is there such a thing as an addictive personality? I would say that for some hard minds, maybe, the craving has more impact on the choices we make than for others. And that can be due to all kinds of cases. For example, addiction, if I consider, and I worked with people, and I have a son who has ADHD, they are, one aspect of it is a high unpleasantness with just staying still. Yeah, there is so much input, so much sensory input that the whole being might be reverberating, yeah, and that might be also for very sensitive people, yeah, we're just like touched by a lot, and sometimes this can feel quite overwhelming, like it's being under pressure all the time. And if just this physically being here in silence with myself is so unpleasant, I have no ability to properly rest. Yeah, so I might need something to distract. I might need something to compensate. Yeah, I might need something to, etc., etc. Same with the mind. If there is no opportunity to find stillness, calm, settledness, groundedness, because everything either in the mind or in the heart emotionally or in the body physically is buzzing, yeah, we might of course have a tendency to compensate that with some sort of strong other impulse which will calm and soothe and distract. Yeah, I find that very natural. Unfortunately, there are a lot of time very negative consequences to some of the things we're addicted to. Yeah, so it's all about learning healthy ways to calm down that buzzing in some sort or another. If the heart mind is brittle, is very touched, maybe also from past trauma, same thing applies. It will have much more tendency to crave and cling and be pushed and pulled, because it almost like it's lacking its center, it's lacking its middle, it's lacking its reference space, that which we just practiced. Yeah. So that makes us all more prone and more liable to any sort of addiction. Yeah, we could call that whole craving aspect as a form of smaller and less intense to really big forms of addiction. So we're all some sort of on the scale. We just make a pathology and call some addicted, and fortunately not us others not. But I really think we are all there on the scale somewhere. So we're all trying to take care of those smaller and larger addictions ourselves through this practice. And now that might answer how far we can get involved in addictions of others. And I just remember my talk saying, I need to be aware of the addiction. I need to see the craving for what it is. And I need to see the costs of that. And we can point others to that. But are they truly seeing that? Can they see that? Yeah, because once we are aware of the costs, usually it's very hard to then say, no, I'm aware of the cost and I'm going to ignore it anyways. Yeah. Sometimes we're holding on to the addiction because we have no alternative to it. We don't see any other solution to be with whatever we're compensating for. So I find it hard. We can support, we can point to, and yet something in this waking up to the addiction is the work which needs to be done by the other. That has been a very short answer to a very complicated, complex theme. I hope that gives some idea. Good. Now, lovely questions from you. Mike is writing. I have been noticing myself relating these cravings to a craving throughout the day to look at my phone and what the underlying need actually is. Beautiful, Mike. That is a perfect daily life practice. The craving for the phone. Why am I touching this thing again and again? Yeah, what is the underlying need? And sometimes it is something as beautiful as wanting to have a sense of connection with someone. This is why I'm opening it up. Oh, I can actually honor and respect that. And then I can use that phone in a very deliberate way and maybe call someone. Or I might need to do some practice and say, I'm feeling a bit lonely here. Yeah, what do I do with this loneliness? Beautiful. Thank you, Mike. Meryl is writing, the idea of putting space around the feeling of craving is so helpful. To not have to get into a battle with it, absolutely, but to step back and look at it. Sometimes I spend so much time craving that I miss out on all the lovely things that go on around me. Yeah. Craving makes us miss a lot because it says, this is what I want, this is not available. Now I'm getting all frustrated, sad, agitated, afraid, whatever it is. I'm just looking at what I don't have and what I desperately need. And so much of the experience falls away. Yeah. Or it's dismissed. Gosh, how can the mind be dismissive about if it's not this perfect food, that perfect person, that what it dismisses all the rest. Yeah. And to say we're missing out on a lot. Yeah. You named a cost here, and that is something to really have into the backs of our minds. And sometimes we can even connect that with the little word and. The craving house doesn't have to go. Yeah. And there is also, look, there is also that kind smile of the person, that person opening up the door, there's the flower, there is the beauty of the snow on the grass. And the mind might go a little, nah, not what I want, not what I need. And say, okay, that's your view. But something in the awareness is touched by it anyways. Yeah. If you're concerned, affected by someone's drinking, a Lennon can help. Yes, that might be a lovely resource as well. Thank you, Veronique, for sharing that. Nicola is writing, wherever I draw my attention to, I found something bothering next to the pleasant. Yeah, like I felt my warming hands on my legs and the colder parts next to it. Or the painless nose and then someone tingling too. Yes. That is there. The question that we have this whole bodily field, and there will always be, that is part of the dukkha, always be pleasant, unpleasant, neutral experiences. So as much as I can say, bring your attention to something pleasant, where there is light, there is shadow. And the mind might just do that to say, yeah, but remember, there's not only the pleasantness, there's also the unpleasant. The question is, how do we relate to this unpleasantness? Can we allow that to be there and put the little word "and" between it? Yeah. Or is it bothering me? Is it bothering the heart mind in some way? Is it felt as dangerous? Is it felt as not okay? Is it felt as a problem that there is some tingling or some coolness somewhere? So there is an interesting, the problem is not the unpleasantness, but very much in the way we relate to the fact that there is an unpleasant experience. Thank you, Nicola. Beautifully observed. Penny wrote, I noticed lots of worries, unpleasant memories and tight chest feelings, and tried to notice my anchor. I find using the word "and" very helpful to give me a space to be separate from the things I notice. Yeah, great. That what happened for you there is the non-identification. Without this reference space, the tight chest, the unpleasant memories, the worries might be everything which is there. And because of their unpleasantness and the rubbing, frictional, unpleasant experience, we might be submerged, immersed into them. Now the little word "and" gave you some spaciousness around there. And it's no longer I, my worries, my unpleasant memories, my tight chest feelings so much. Yeah, the word my, I, it gets a little less substantial. And that already can bring up a lot of relief. Yeah, thank you, Penny, for sharing that. David is writing, becoming aware of and realizing my craving brings a liberating sense of releasing myself to the present moment. It's so easy to get caught up unconsciously of subtle yearnings that it's like being your own private investigator of what's going on in your heart. Yes, yes. The craving of I need to understand and I need to analyze and I need to solve this whole puzzle here. That can become just another form of craving. Yeah, that's very interesting to see that. And to just become aware and to say, there is the craving. There is the craving. My heart mind has brought up some craving. And there is space around that can be a whole another way to meet it. So Heidi's writing that she noticed that she's very driven in her spiritual practice and consciously striving. Yeah. Looking at it in a different way and can see how much craving I have around the becoming. Beautiful, Heidi. Lovely. Do you realize how every beautiful, healthy need and wish can turn into some form of craving? And that there is almost like a form of tipping point, yeah? Tipping point where something beautiful and healthy starts to contract into something. And it's not about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah, it's not about stopping your spiritual practice. It's about like, where is that tipping point? Yeah, where is that tipping point? Can I lean back a little? And that applies for everything. Yeah, because the other way, like stopping the spiritual practice, trying to stop to crave, that would just be vibhava. That is just then the craving in the opposite direction. Yeah. So it's about very gently opening the hand up around the wish and to hold it with a lot of lightness there. Great, thank you. Tim's writing. When you invited us to look and find a pattern during the meditation, I started to twist gently and became very aware of my spine and had a very strong sense of my spine as my anchor. Great. What an amazing job it does being a support for the whole body and protecting the nerve system. It feels like a great thing to remind of the strength and flexibility that we have. Beautiful, Tim. That is great. And there are two qualities working, at least I read that. There is the sense of stability and groundedness, and there is appreciation, there is mudita, there's almost a sense of joyful acknowledgement of something beautiful within this body, which is also a wonderful, wonderful quality to nourish. Yeah. So, dear ones, I'm not making it through all the comments this morning, or maybe I do. There's Laura's. I noticed how hard it is for me to find any sort of anchor or refuge. Whenever I pick something, my inner critical voice immediately tells me it's an illusion anyway. Oh, there is no safety. And then a huge wave of sadness arises. I guess it's the crooked, habitual way of the inner critic trying to protect me. Yeah, lovely, lovely, Laura. Now, the inner critic says there is nothing safe enough. Nothing safe enough. Maybe we can cut a deal with it. Say it doesn't have to be safe for a lifetime, dear critic. Yeah, you're very wise inner critic. We won't find anything which is safe enough for a lifetime. What about this moment? What is safe in this moment? What is stable in this moment? Let me find something for now to redimension it. Yeah, okay. Lovely to be with you this morning. Thank you for all your precious contributions. That was a joy to be with you. And we see each other tomorrow morning again, same time. And we're going to speak finally about the difference between healthy desire, needs, and clinging on the other side. So I'm looking forward to be with you again. Have a lovely morning and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.